There's been a lot of radical changes going on in NASCAR throughout the 2020 so far, the Gen 7 car being totally different from any other generation of stock car, the schedule being so diverse with the addition of street courses, racing at a stadium, and we even went dirt racing for a little while. The new TV deal is going to see NASCAR dip their toe into streaming for the first time with Amazon broadcasting 5 races starting in 2025. It definitely feels like a new era in NASCAR where the sport is putting themselves into uncharted territory with the changes we've seen throughout this decade. Everything we've been accustomed to in NASCAR is changing, and that also includes the voices we heard for many years, whether it's through TV or on the radio. Legendary voices like Doug Rice, who's been around this game for 30 plus years, is retiring from being the lead anchor at PRN Radio. Jeff Striegel is retiring from MRN Radio. Mike Joy is still calling races for Fox, but I think we're witnessing his final few years of play-by-play. It wouldn't surprise me within the next 2 to 3 years that he announces his retirement. These play-by-play commentators are either retiring or pretty much close to retirement. Then we got those who should be around for another decade or so, like Rick Allen, Lee Diffie, and Adam Alexander. We always hear about the next generation of drivers in NASCAR, but what about the next generation of play-by-play announcers? Who is out there right now honing their skills to hopefully call big-time auto racing one day? In this case, I'm more so specifically talking about calling NASCAR races. I feel like there's a few of them out there, but before I shine any light on these next-gen commentators, I really want to express how important being a play-by-play announcer is. I feel like having a great play-by-play commentator is right at the very top, along with having top-of-the-line production. A play-by-play announcer can really influence the viewers on how to feel about what's taking place on the playing field. Their delivery is going to be the determining factor of whether we're going to give a damn or not. They can make something happening on the playing field feel monumental if they end up executing the call. Commentators like Ken Squire, Mike Joy, Barney Hall, Doug Rice, Alan Bestwick, and Lee Diffie are the very best at this, and we, the fans, find ourselves reciting their most famous calls all the time. Most of these commentators have had the privilege of calling races on television and radio, and what they all have in common is bringing that radio style delivery to television. And I feel like that's the best form of commentating because typically being a radio announcer will require them to paint as clear of a picture as possible for those who are listening. So they end up coming off way more expressive. And honestly, we need every commentator to have that type of delivery because it will elevate the broadcast so much. When it comes to these next-gen commentators, they already have that ability, and now it's about giving them an opportunity at the big stage. Whether it's the CW, Fox, Amazon, TNT, or NBC, these media outlets need to be paying attention to these announcers. There's quite a bit to say about these guys, so let's get to know them. I want to start off talking about Eric Brennan.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Timmonsville, South Carolina. I'm Eric Brennan alongside Matthew Dillner, and Jacqueline Drake will be joining us trackside here shortly. And as you can see, Matthew, we packed this place. Matt Hirschman gets a superb jump from the pole. Myers slots into second spot, double wide, fourth on back as Zach Brewer is trying to get up to and past Caraway 2 winner Joey Coulter, with Hirschman leading lap number 1. Pulls a half car length advantage off 2. Dale Jr. just behind trying to size up. Green, Honeycutt, and Diaz tangle. Junior squeezes by to the top side as they pile up behind him.
He grew up in New York, and then came a time where he made the big move to Charlotte, which is the home of NASCAR. And that's when opportunities started to really open up for him. Before his most recent big break, which is announcing races for the Cars Tour, he was calling races for the Smart Modified Tour alongside with some other racing series. Now, he's a Cars Tour announcer for FloRacing, and I'll be honest, that's not how I was introduced to him. It was actually a 2024 ARCA race at Iowa Speedway when I first heard of this guy. And I remember I wasn't the only one that was introduced to him that night. Instead of talking about the action on the track, everyone was talking about the play-by-play announcing, which is pretty crazy.
The fastest short track on the planet got even faster with a bit of resurfacing on each end of the racetrack. The pole sitter, Gio Ruggiero in the 20 on the top side of Connor Zilish in the 28 on the bottom are set to bring us down for the 7th race of the 2024 season for the ARCA Menard Series. Glad you're with us on Fox Sports 1. The Atlas 150 from Iowa is underway. Little bit of content loose. Up the racetrack, here comes Sawalich on lap 1 to go from 3rd to 1st to lead the opening lap.
Boy, both those young men wanted to fight for that lead and lost it.
Big run off 4. Here comes Illich to the inside. They squeeze their way by Cody Dedison or make that DL Wilson in the number 39 car. And they almost touch off turn 2 in the battle for the lead. Zillish trying to set up high. Look at Gustine up on the top side off 2 and nearly into the wall off the corner.
How about Ruggiero on the bottom? 3 wide pass per second.
Ruggiero at a second spot, but Dean's got the momentum rolling on the top side as Zillish tries to get back under. And Dean has to catch the car off 4.
I couldn't believe Fox actually made a good move for once and brought this guy on for a race. Unfortunately, we haven't had any good commentators in the ARCA and Truck Series for quite a while, so it was a breath of fresh air hearing someone that's actually good at it. Eric Brandon was alongside Phil Parsons for the call, and this guy was so good that he brought out energy in Phil Parsons that hasn't been heard since the early 2010s. By the end of the night, a lot more people were familiar with the name Eric Brandon. Now you just wonder will he be full-time with Fox in 2025 after all the praise that he got that night, along with the excellent job he's doing calling races in the Cars Tour. I feel like having him call the ARCA series full-time while calling select truck races, with Adam Alexander by the way, not Jamie Little, will be the right move, and it would give us some hope that Fox actually does give a damn. When I hear this guy commentate, he does a fantastic job of bringing the energy while balancing that out with professionalism. He always comes off genuine with the energy he brings. You can tell that he's actually invested with what's happening on the track instead of faking it. And trust me, I've heard some commentators over the years that sound like they'll rather be doing something else than calling a race. If you guys want to learn more about Eric Brandon, y'all can check out the interview he did with Taylor Kitchen, whose YouTube name is Above the Yellow Line. He really opens up about his past, like attending races at his home track at Wall Stadium Speedway, making connections that presented him with the opportunities he received to get him to this point, and much more. I'm really hoping Eric Brandon is a voice we can hear for many years to come. Cross y'all fingers. We then make our way over to the other next generation NASCAR announcer, and that's Jonathan Ramos, aka IDK Player.
Here tonight, 10 laps in, it's been all Jacob Okerson. Shamela, Goff, and others continue to fight in the wake to try to make up some sort of time. Race to 1 and 2, Trevor Huff in the tow. He allowed Akabuizi to get away, but has just slotted in line 1-2. Schaefer loose to the middle of 1 and 2, Kevin Champagne thunders to the outside to take the race lead.
I remember watching his videos back in the day talking about the NASCAR Heat games where his voice was still pretty light.
What's up guys, IDK Player coming with a NASCAR Heat 2 video, and this is about the NASCAR Heat speed glitch.
You probably would have never guessed that maybe this guy has a future in announcing, but as time has gone on, I've been convinced. Ever heard of NR Night in America? It's an iRacing event that he hosts on his channel on a daily basis alongside with fellow YouTuber The Iceberg. And this is when I guess you could say that he may have a knack for this. His cadence as a commentator just screams a classic wrestling / boxing announcer like a Michael Buffer or a Howard Finkel. There's commentators out there that can commentate a wide range of sports like Alan Bestwick and Rick Allen, for example, who end up doing play-by-play for NASCAR, football, track and field, and basketball. Jonathan Ramos fits that mold as well, and I'll go even further and say that he can commentate any sport out there. That includes wrestling. I think he's that good. No, he's not just commentating iRacing events, he's actually out there calling real races. He's the track announcer at the Nashville Fairgrounds and actually has live streamed himself quite a few times calling some late model races. Recently, he got a huge opportunity to be the track announcer at the Milwaukee Mile, calling the NASCAR Truck Series race, and I hope he continues to get more opportunities like this in the future. So where does he go from here? Well, I think he can go in a few directions. FloRacing TV will be a good option. That would then kind of put him on a bigger stage and his voice can be heard by more people. Or if Fox is even aware of who he is, they can get in contact with him, take a huge risk, and have him call ARCA races. And I feel like that would be a huge opportunity to get his name out there more. Or you never know, he might not go down the NASCAR route and could possibly commentate open wheel racing, sports car racing, drag racing, or some stick and ball sport like football. Like I said, I think he has the talent to commentate any sport out there. But the hope is to have him calling NASCAR Cup races one day, and hopefully that's the path he continues to head down. These are just a couple of guys I've been keeping an eye on lately, and I could see them both calling Cup races in the future if everything lines up well. It's time for some new blood in the booth. People always beg for guys like Alan Bestwick to return, and I'm not totally against that, but Alan is past his prime. He's still good, don't get me wrong, but I just want some new voices in the TV booth. Eric Brennan and Jonathan Ramos are two upcoming commentators that fits the bill. They're honing their skills at the local levels, and hopefully these guys are calling crown jewel races in NASCAR like the Daytona 500 and Southern 500 someday. So let me ask y'all some questions. Have you guys ever heard of these two commentators I mentioned in this video? And if so, what are y'all thoughts on them? Who are some other upcoming commentators out there that you can see calling NASCAR Cup races in the future? Hit up that comment section, and like always, I'll be checking out what y'all have to say. I'm gonna go ahead and roll up out of here. Y'all have a good one. Peace.